Welcome to
BamBamORama. BamBamORama.
Hi, welcome to the BamBam-O-Rama
BamBamORama.
podcast.
You can't just mumble into the hi, welcome into the BamBam-O-Rama.
I
need some energy.
gave
I need some fucking. Hold on. I need a second. All right, go ahead.
Hi, welcome to the BamBam-O-Rama podcast. I'm Jackson Chris. It's done.
I don't hear the little BamBamORama little intro that.
Oh, you wanted?
I thought I got like a fucking. I thought I was supposed to. Yeah.
That's in post.
I like that little intro before you get into the on YouTube. So I was like excited to hear it in my headphones. I literally thought every guest had to hear that because y'all were giggling at like almost on cue with. Oh, this is me not shaving for 2 days, by the way. I had to try to catch up to you guys.
Yeah, this is 2 days for us too.
Okay.
So I was about to say. Damn it.
So as y'all know, this is our guest Dominic Roberts from 95X currently, correct?
Yeah. More specifically, West Texas Radio Group. It's 95X, which at one time was called Rock 95.1. Then we turned into 95X about a year ago. We brought that back. Also, 97 Gold and Kicks 99.1.
Okay.
Yes. So
I didn't realize all of those were all married now.
yeah,
Sisters.
as a sister station, one company. Correct. Yes, sir.
Pretty cool. And you've been doing. I'm sorry. Before we get into questions, I just want to remind y'all if y'all like our guest series to like our videos, comment, and subscribe.
We're very professional.
Yeah,
extremely
we're good at
it. Let's get into the really serious questions immediately.
Let's get really drunk.
Exactly.
So you've been doing radio for a long time. Honestly, you've been doing radio since I've first met you.
Absolutely.
20 years ago?
Yeah, I think I'm at 21 years into being with the West Texas Radio Group.
Your radio career is old enough to drink now.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I'm going to have a drink whenever it turns. I think it's on Halloween would be my official. I just remember it was 2002. So yeah, 21 years.
There you go.
Started out as just an intern. Annoyed the hell out of them. I always just wanted to win the CDs and stuff. And they were like, hey, we need help. And they let me come in, and one day they were like, hey, we actually need you to sit here. We'll put you on the payroll to do this hockey game. And then the next week they were like, well, you do this football game. And it just turned into the...
So you started doing sports first?
Yeah, board operating. And I was, at that time, I was nagging the 95X people, Michael Todd and the other DJs. And that's when they kind of were like, well, we could start letting you do overnights since you've been doing back and forth. So it's kind of a little cool thing to do. And then one day I decided, hey, I want to start selling the advertisement. And my boss, he was like, hey, why don't you give it a try? And then they put me on full time. So
that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Been doing that on about 5 years now.
5 years. So when did you start? Because remember, I met you a long time ago, and you were in charge of, was it on 95X, the punk rock show?
The punk rock show, or possibly called Over the Edge, was like the heavy metal show. I think I was doing at that point like a show before Over the Edge.
Okay.
And I don't know if I was still hosting it at the time or not. I was doing a show like that where I was getting all the local artists shot down in left field. And it was a lot more metal at the time because this was before a lot of the shows that you might remember, me from and, whatnot. So it was a lot more metal, local metal. And,
right.
Just basically it was too heavy for the radio, alternative radio during the day, and then not heavy enough to be on Over the Edge and like pop, punk rock, ska.
Right.
A lot of that hardcore, A Day to Remember, screaming with singing was coming out. So
yeah, I say
they didn't know where to put it at that time.
Right. That's what everyone always seemed to do because everyone always called that punk rock. But like, yeah, Day to Remember was not really punk rock. It was what, hardcore. Is that what we called it?
Easy core, whatever core. Yeah.
The genre names of subgenres get so fucking exhausting. It's like, why can't I just be a rock band?
Oh yeah,
let's fucking go.
When you talk on through a message or you're getting to know somebody, especially whenever that person's maybe more of a hip hop pop head, I just say rock, and then they say like who if they really want to go into that, and I'll just say, Newfound Glory, Slayer and Beastie Boys. Like I'll just throw in three random rock genres because it's just like one, why does it matter? And two, it's like I like it's just too many genres out there.
Right.
If you like those specific bands, then we can get into that conversation of the other rock genres from punk
Right.
to whatever, industrial to easycore or whatever. That's a bad thing about me too, is I like too much fucking music. Way too much music, and I think that's something that is kind of a weird addiction. It's kind of like High Fidelity, if you remember the movie, where
Yeah.
he says that there's always a playlist in your head going at the end of the movie. He says something. John Cusack says something about the constant playlist in your head, and that's me. I literally wake up with songs in my head, or
Yeah.
I can't sit in silence because there's literally a music playing in my head.
So what was the name of the show? It wasn't the punk rock show. Was it the punk rock?
Over the Edge, or
Over the Edge.
I don't remember what we called that show. I honestly can't.
How did that show come to be?
So I think I was not hosting Over the Edge anymore. I started doing that show, and then this might be a little fast forward. Not trying to get too much off topic, but after 95X, so 95X used to be FM. I was on FM, and
Right.
we went on, and now we're back. But that was a 17-year break. We technically, in a way, myself and Michael Todd, we never stopped. 95X kind of kept going. Michael Todd worked at and still does, works at the recording library for the blind here in Midland. Great place, great people. Some of the employees were like, we miss 95X. So he basically like got like a flash drive together for them, and he had all the sweepers and stuff. He was like, here, just put it in. Here's the music we played. Hit shuffle, and then you'll hear the sweepers in there of, the 95X. And that's what they did, and it went from there. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to start my online radio station. He gave me a call, and he was like, I want you to bring back that punk rock show you did, where it was just a lot of new music. And then we were even doing like alternative music, and we just didn't know where to put it, so we just played it in the hour with a mixture of all sorts of genres. So that's when I brought back what was called the new music playlist. Now that was a time, almost, we had known each other for years.
Yeah.
But that was a time that that was the Pine Box years.
Right.
And that was taking my phone out there, and I was recording everybody, for my show. Every week I had a guest, because it was all the local bands on top of all the touring bands.
Remember, I think I got to be on that show twice.
Probably twice. Yeah, absolutely.
It was a lot of fun.
So I don't know, and I don't know if there's a sort of confusion, but on that show from 95X, on the FM to that show, but that's kind of how that evolved, is kind of the same way in a sense, because I wasn't doing Over the Edge anymore, I think. And it was like we didn't know where to put a lot of music during that time. We on 95X, it was Outcast, Hey Ya, Tattoo, all the things she said, to Corn really wasn't releasing banger singles anymore. It was out of the 90s. We had the Hives, the Strokes,
Yeah.
all that garage. So there was just so much going on with alternative and punk rock, and a lot of these newer bands were coming out that we just didn't know where to put them. And I think that's where we had that 1 hour of all these newer bands. And that's, we weren't doing, I think we had a local show, I forgot, it was like on Thursday nights, and we weren't doing that anymore. So we were just kind of throwing that in with that hour as well. And, just kind of went from there. And I mean, I think we just kind of had to slow things down. I think that was kind of towards the end of the 95X days, where we had to kind of cut over the edge, I think, even at that point too, and just did the regular radio, and that was kind of the end, unfortunately. Yeah, life.
I know.
That's the radio life. I mean, unfortunately, the rug could be pulled from underneath you at any time.
Right.
Thankfully, with my job, it doesn't feel that way anymore. Can that happen? Probably so. I mean, would that happen? I highly doubt that with the numbers that we have. I mean, we have good ratings, so that would be a shocker to come in and, oh, you don't have the number one country station anymore. It's talk radio. Then, I would probably have a heart attack if that were to happen for real. That would scare me, because we carry such good frequency on all three of the stations that,
Yeah.
I think I think it's safe to say we're okay, but you just never know what could happen. But thankfully, radio's pretty strong right now.
On that note, it's an interesting time. With that being said, especially with the advent of YouTube and AI generation of things,
Oh yes, absolutely.
why do you think radio is successful right now?
Really, it's just really a big turnaround with with COVID, with the pandemic. I know we don't like to say those words and talk about it, but that's really what it is. Numbers just really increased because sure, and we could talk about how we listen to Spotify, YouTube. I have YouTube Premium. I have Spotify Premium. I listen to a lot, but I listen to a lot of radio too, and that's where it comes from. Is we wanted something local during the pandemic. We know what's going on out there, but what's going on here? So that's where it became really important that radio increased. We want to have a familiarity with somebody local. So that's where people started listening to radio again, is they want to hear who's local, who's on. We had our DJs, three or four of them, that never had a day off during the pandemic, other than the weekends or sick and paid holiday leaves that they could have.
Yep.
But they never left. They were considered essential. So people in the public loved that. And that's what they want now. So people, and the radio has raised since 2016 on top of that for stats. But
Really?
people have come back to radio because mainly in Midland, Texas, numbers may be different other places, but in Midland, we have great numbers to show that people are still listening. It makes me feel like the 90s all over again when everybody literally listened to the radio. Yesterday, I don't know when this airs, but whenever we had the big AT&T cell phone service panic, I was kind of giggling to myself. It's like, well, nobody can listen to Spotify, so somebody's got to be mad that they have to turn on the radio. They're gonna have to jam us.
I
So
didn't
we'll take a
think about that,
listen.
but
Yeah.
Not even gonna lie. When I was on the way to Snyder during this happening, and I was like, well, I can't listen to Spotify. Could listen to the radio, but I actually chose to sit in silence, which honestly was something I kind of needed, to be honest.
No, yeah, that's a good mental break, and that's not everybody needs to. We don't force. Literally, we're not forcing you to listen to the radio, but
Right.
the numbers do show we're in competition with some of the best radio stations in town. But at the end of the day, we are the best stations. We just got our ratings, and we are considered in certain areas, whether it's the age demographic or how we reach overall. Our three stations are the number one stations in certain areas. So we love that because people are truly listening. They want local. Our for our country station, they literally, not all of them, but they walk into the business. Oh, I wanted to come eat here because I heard it on Kicks 99, or I came to shop here because I heard of the commercial. So that to us is that's what I love about my job, about selling the advertising. I love having a business grow as it has been as me with the promoter with music. I want to see you grow. I'm here to help you. Of course, in the advertising world, it's nothing's free, unfortunately. So things do cost. Not here to take your money, but we're here to help your business. And that's what we're all about with West Texas Radio Group is we're here to make your business grow because we have the numbers to show that people are listening to your message.
It's pretty cool.
As you said, you've listened to a few of our casts, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm pretty sure you're familiar that the goal is to help boost artists in the area, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
With that in mind, and with your experience, given that you've got 2 decades of literally what we're talking about experience, what kind of advice do you have for people like us, and for anybody that's out there that's listening that might be attempting to endeavor within arts in the West Texas area?
Not to sound cheesy, but just don't stop. Just don't quit. Don't stop. This is probably one of the best times to be doing this right now. I mean, as weird as it sounds, there you have competition. There's other podcasts that are featuring specific Midland people. Why they haven't called the best radio stations? I don't know, but you should get a hold of my boss for that one. But anyway, that it's a lot of things. I've been wanting to do something like this for a long time as well. I just haven't picked up the gear to do it.
Yeah.
So so anyway, but yeah, just don't give up. Keep trying. Network. It's all about networking too. Everybody knows everybody. Make your way in. Go to the local shows. Um, Eventbrite might be another thing where go find something that's networking. If it's a free whatever, come meet some of these people, check it out. And if it's not for you, duck out. It's all just depending, it's all who you know. I've been in the advertising world with this radio station for 5 years, 6 years, and I'm still walking into a room full of hundreds of people, and all my coworkers descend talking to everybody they've known for years, and I'm just sitting there kind of like mingling my way, introducing myself, and finally it's starting to every people are popular faces in Midland are walking, hey Dominic, how are you doing? And it feels so good, that people know you now or know what you do, or people are still, hey, you're the radio with so and so, yeah, of course, so it's I still I'm shy for one thing. I'm a really as social as I am, I'm actually really, really shy.
We can
So
all be that way.
yeah, so throw me in a room full of 100 people and everybody's talking to everybody. I kind of, have to jump out there and do it,
It's
and talk to them. So
Yeah,
you
I
just
always think
gotta,
about that. I think the uncomfortable situation, because I describe myself as an extrovert, but if I
yeah,
walk into a room and I see, like you said, 100 people, and you see 100 people talking to each other, you're like, no one was talking. Like I
yeah,
then become shy
yeah,
because I'm like, oh, they're all friends, and I
exactly,
don't know them yet.
exactly.
Like, so yeah, you got to get yourself out
You
there.
just got to get yourself out there, and I see that. I'm seeing a lot of that in the local places, especially on the promoter side. I do a show, and then sometimes after a show, somebody that wasn't even on the bill, they're like, "Hey, I saw that you booked. You did this one show. I wanted to see what I can do to be on the show," and that's my favorite thing to do. There needs to be more local. I mean, there's a lot of us, but there needs to be more local bands out there. I mean, Jackson, you're familiar where it's like there's a show where you're opening the show and the last band's a heavy metal band, and in between that was every other type of rock music in between.
Been on very many shows where, like,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
always weird because I'm this folk Americana guy. Sometimes I have a band, and when I get to when I have a band, I can turn on the distortion pedals and be a little louder, a little more rocky. But yeah, most of the time it's just me and an acoustic, or
yeah,
me and my piano. And yeah, I've opened for punk rock bands who were opening for indie bands who were opening for metal bands. Like,
yeah.
it's just this weird.
Extra shows.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we just need more of it. And definitely we need more of and I see some band, I forgot 5 years apart, I think, where it's like two of the guys are like elder dudes and the other two dudes are like in high school or something. Yeah,
I've been
yeah.
seeing them on my Facebook lately. I'd
Absolutely.
like to catch their show.
Yeah, and it's like we need more of that. And back in whenever I was in my not even 20, like I was barely out of high school, I was working at a cafe, and this kid walks in and he's like, "What is this place?" It's like, "Well, we're a cafe, but we're trying to be more of a music venue. Well, I have a band, can we play?" And it's just like, yes, please. Like we need that, I
Right.
don't think we have that. Are cops being called because 15-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids are playing till 10:05 in the garage
It
for
does.
being too loud.
It feels like it's always felt like to me in the West Texas area that there's been like an in it grows and it gets smaller. People wanting to make original music. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's a lot of us and sometimes there's very little of us. And I guess it's just because I hate to like be harping on people who care about music, but this area would rather hear top 40 than hear someone create something.
Yes.
And it really bums me out because we have a lot of great musicians. I think dreamers that I've talked about once before on the podcast, I think, which we've talked about having Panky on the podcast before too. That was one of the best bands I've ever
Yeah.
heard. And if there was ever a band in West Texas that I ever heard, I was like, that's a band who could make it. And the fact that it was there wasn't that big push from within the music scene here, which was a small group. There was a lot of support for that band
Yeah.
and many bands. Also, that was a side project band for most of the members in that.
I believe so.
I
That's
will give
right.
that
That's
too.
right.
So that may be another reason why it didn't make it. But I think had the push been bigger than this small 50, 50 around 50 population of people who cared in a city of 200,000, only 50 people cared. And
Yeah.
it would be if we can grow this population of people who care about original music in this area, I think that would help a lot of us out.
Yes, absolutely. That in general, and that's the thing where it's the 50 people that support them, they can't go to every single local show, so it
Yeah,
turns into 40 people or 25 people.
I played shows for the band.
Exactly. And it's just, and that's just it just comes in waves, or it just depends on who the artist is or what you're booking. But either way, it shouldn't discourage you. And
No,
all in all, it just going back to the thing, going back to the local artists is not giving up. Another thing too is if that's the case, market yourself. I'm not saying go print out shirts and go release an album right away, but market yourself to other promoters, play
right,
out of town shows. It's always been a Midland thing. We're 5 hours away from everywhere. Go play shows 5 hours away,
right.
make a couple of bucks, and come home. Market yourself. There's bands, local bands, that are doing pretty good doing that.
You're
They're
right.
playing, they're not even playing local shows. They're playing these out of town shows. And what's funny is not really funny, but what's great is they announce like a music festival that they're on, and they're like, where's this? And it's in, New Braunfels or whatever. And you're like, I haven't heard of this music festival for one. For two, you're a metal band, and all of these bands are metal bands. I've never heard of some of these bands. So now I'm going to go check these other bands out.
Yeah,
And now, whether this local band wants to play here or not, or whether whatever happens, I'm going to check these bands out. And I might have to invite them to play here in our town next time they're around.
I mean, yeah, it opens doors for the networking.
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah, it opens the doors for the networking. And it just, that's what these bands just need to do is try to just don't, once again, going back to don't give up, just try to just make it somewhere and go out of these shows. And I'm not saying go on a national tour, don't, do that, but you gotta do something. That's the thing, is giving people these tools. It's like whenever somebody on Facebook saying, hey, I need a job. Who's hiring? And then you
yeah,
click on you see the comments, and there's like 150 comments, and then you can follow up with that person, and they never apply for any of them. Well,
right.
how are we supposed to help you? It's kind of like that. Just keep doing you, keep reaching out to people. Don't just release the merch and expect people to buy your merch if you're not promoting yourself.
That's the truth. And there's also other ways to promote yourself nowadays too, with social media, and
Absolutely.
like we're doing. You can definitely post reels on Instagram and make TikToks to try to promote your band. You brought a band I opened for. I unfortunately had to leave before I got to watch them, but I did follow them on their Instagram, Stop, Drop, Rewind,
Yes, shout
and
out.
I watch their reels all the time. Their
Yeah,
bassist is one of the smartest musicians I've ever like seen, and I love watching because he talks
he's a
about.
really good bassist.
Oh my god, yes, I love watching his stuff.
Yes.
And I think one of those things, it's highly marketable. It's also really surprising to me when I see the amount of people who've seen the reels that I watch on Instagram is like 20 something people. And I'm like, you guys, all you musicians realize you can learn something. Like,
Absolutely.
start watching this. Like,
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's another thing I was gonna say, like with bands like that, is your band is your business.
mm-hmm.
It's not it is your hobby, but it's your business. And if you want to be able to succeed, you got to promote yourself, and you got to treat it like it's your business. And we have seen bands that have toured through here or not, whether they're signed or not, you see the professionalism in it because they're promoting themselves. They're putting themselves out there. It's not selling out. It's basically necessarily you're getting yourself on there. If you need to pay the X amount of dollars to be featured on something, you need to go out there and do it so you can get that attention, or you can get, that, so you can get booked, for other things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it. As you're talking about networking, I think it's the downside partially of this West Texas world where, as you probably know, everyone believes that word of mouth is the only thing that they need.
Yes, and
And that's not, as you know, 100% true.
no, not at all. Word of mouth is great. Love word of mouth. That's what, in a way, that all day, that's kind of what we do all day is, if you're not doing Midland right if you don't know somebody who knows somebody, basically. And every time somebody brings something up, all of my coworkers, oh, so and so at so and so, or oh, you need to call so and so and so and so. Always know somebody right off the top of your head. That's word of mouth. That's fine, but there ain't no way that a restaurant, for instance, you know you could have your same 100 customers, or if it's a specific style of food at your restaurant, sure, those people are coming in, that's fine, but don't you want new people to come in? Don't you want people with money to come in, people who want to experience something new, etc.? There's just different factors for many different businesses, that where they think that the word of mouth is going to work. And sure, that might be the number one thing, but it's just you you're basically not going to succeed doing that.
Your product has to be really amazing.
Yes, exactly. Or it could be the most popular, or the fanciest looking buildings. That's, in fact, I was doing ride-alongs when I first started doing the advertising with a coworker of mine. Pulled up, to a business. It's in a little shopping center, real nice shopping center. And he just kind of did a little look around and sighed, and I was like, "What's wrong?" And he was like, "This is something for you to learn. We're walking into this one business right here. Look how many businesses are closed around him." And I'm like, "Yeah, but they just open?" He was like, "Exactly. I'll tell you, I probably went into all of those businesses, gave them my card, told them what I do, and told them what we can do to help them. Probably none of them called back, and none of them, or all of them, or they said, word of mouth, it's too much, whatever excuse it is, and now look at where they are."
Right.
Now would they still be in business now? And he said it's like yes or no, but they probably could have if we had helped them and people knew about this place.
Well, and I think just to help piggyback and ram it into this, it's if you really say that it's your business and that's my dream, wouldn't you fight with every weapon you had?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
With our stations, we have three completely different radio stations.
Right.
Certain things, and there are businesses where they're like, we want to be on 95X, and it's like, but your demographic is going to be more perfect on the country station, and you
Right.
kind of got to show them that and convince them. And it's like, maybe, and then we could work on other things on 95X if you want to, and we do want to make the client happy and we want to give them what they want, but it's our job to kind of show them what could be better. And it's, that's the other thing where it's like, you got to make sure you're marketing to the right things and to the right people. Your band is your business. Do you want to put your band's name on the back of your receipt paper at HEB? Probably not so much.
I'll be honest, I kind of do.
Okay, you're right.
I mean, is it going to work? I don't know, but I would love JLC to be sponsored by HEB somehow.
Right.
We're going to definitely be hopping on some sort of artist booth thing at a Comic-Con or something as soon as we can figure out some. And one of the ideas we had back was getting ours on Common. So
Oh, see, yeah, those would be fun. That would be a lot of fun, and even for the bands, that would be a fun thing to do. To brand that's fun branding.
That was an idea I had back in the day when, what was it? Because I looked at like the merchandising that Kiss did, which
Yes.
I don't care if you like Kiss or not. Their merchandising idea is amazing. The fact that you can buy Kiss shoes and Kiss comic books, Kiss action, you can buy anything you want that has Kiss on it. I wanted to talk a little bit about your venture as a promoter here in West Texas. You book bands.
Yeah.
You book shows.
Yes, sir.
How long have you done that?
For about as long as I've been, since almost 20 years at this point.
Almost 20 years as well.
When I was like a junior, senior in high school, I believe.
So it was everything. You were like, I love music. I'm getting on the radio. I'm booking shows. I'm doing all of it.
I guess so. Honestly, I honestly don't know. Like it just happened, I guess. As I know that's kind of a dry answer, but it just kind of happened. I think it was so with going back to the Over the Edge on 95X days. Now that punk rock show I was doing, I was going to the local shows. Earl's 2 was one of the first really trashy looking. It's like south of the Coliseum in Odessa. I think it's like a game room now.
We haven't talked about Earls 2 since I think our second guest on here, who was Brian.
We talked with Skolgeen about it.
Did we talk about Olgeen about it
Okay.
too? Oh my gosh, Earls 2. There was a
You couldn't use the
Arcade?
men's bathroom.
no. There was an arcade game that featured a naked woman.
Yes, and like there was like on the bar there were like two little bar games, like little like a card game and the naked lady. That's right. That was all time though. One of the best venues ever. It's one of those things where we got from people. Some other people were booking shows there, and I was just like, man, how do you do this? I want to bring a band here, and they're like, oh, you just tip this person up for the PA, and then and this was the best thing about Earls too, and you're gonna freak out on this. It was a free venue to use for your shows.
Really?
You just have to tip them out 20 to 40 bucks depending on how the night was at the end of the night, the bartenders.
Okay.
That was it. So everything else was solid profit.
Which also kind of makes sense because from what I remember, Earls 2, even though it was a bar, allowed those shows to be all ages, or was it 18?
Yes, they allowed it to be all ages. They didn't care.
So the bartender got to make a little bit of money, even though there's a shit ton of 16-year-olds there.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was so small though, you could literally sit there and you could scan the whole venues. And that was the thing is everybody respected everybody back then. If there was a fight, we took care of it. That person's kicked out. If somebody's drinking underage, we tell them to stop, doing that in the bar, and whatever you're doing out there, whatever, but, and that was the thing outside too. It was always safe. I remember when I started doing those shows in high school. So all these high school kids wanted to go and their moms is like dropping them off at the birthday party at this trashy bar. And they're like, I would have to be like, hey, the bands play here. The bar people are really cool. Nobody underage drinks. They're here to see the music, which is true. I never saw anybody trying to get drinks at the bar. I never really saw anybody drinking in the car. And if they did, you couldn't even tell what they were doing out there. They were going back into the show, having some fun.
I seem to remember, and not to put anyone on blast, I think there was more issues with alcohol being drank by minors at the Pine Box than there was at the Earls.
To be honest, that may have that. I think that was the case. I was over 21 at that time too, and yeah, I saw a lot of that compared to and even then that was even back when we were during those Pine Box days. Earls 2 was kind of a long time ago at that point for us.
That's true.
And even then, no, we never unless if it was over my head, and I never really realized that when I was younger. But
yeah,
I never saw that issue at Earls 2.
Now I want to be specific. Pine Box never supported underage drinking. I'm just saying minors were doing what they could to get away with it.
Oh yeah, they couldn't. Yeah, absolutely. No, they couldn't. And especially as a promoter, we can't control everything.
No.
And the Pine Box never did that. Once you're outside of somebody's property, we can't control what people are doing outside.
Most of the time, it was happening in the parking lot.
Absolutely, or even off of the parking lot, like a block away and stuff. So they couldn't control all of that. With that being said, though, the local shows though were always really supportive. Everybody was back in those Earls 2 days. Going back though to the shows though, I just looked at the back of a CD and a band, they're called Folly from the East Coast. They're actually reuniting with the band that they toured with that came here called Paulson, and that became.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Did you say Paulson's getting back together, or has Paulson already gotten back together?
They are getting back together for Folly for these two shows. It's like a once lifetime type of thing. Both shows sold out. I honestly,
they're so.
I literally looked at night 2, and I looked at. I have a friend of mine who lives in Baltimore, and I was looking at Baltimore prices. I was going to ask him if I could fly to Baltimore, hitch a ride, or whatever, however you commute to Baltimore to New Jersey with him, and then come back and fly back. Round trip was already touching $600, and there's no way my wife would allow me to fly to see a show, not a festival, not Kiss or Rage Against the Machine or something. But
it's Paulson.
Come on, exactly. Me and you were the only two that you
Probably.
essentially, But so it's it would be it was just
On that note, have you seen that Gatsby's American Dream has been doing? They're not back together, but they're doing a couple reunion shows.
No,
they've done LA, they've done Seattle.
Okay.
I'm sure
So just
they're
doing big little
yeah,
areas.
they're doing big little areas, and they're doing, it's just spotty. Like they'll announce it like a month or two before.
Those would be like probably Dallas or Houston or
I hope so. I hope so.
Boston, New York City,
Yeah.
Florida somewhere or something like that.
And you never know when the next. I mean, you just kind of pay attention to their socials, and they'll be like, "Hey, we have an announcement coming up." If you see that on their social, that means
I've noticed
there's
that
about
with
to
a
be that.
lot of those bands have been doing that, which is really great. I mean, a lot of people our age were obviously willing to pay that. I just saw Thursday last week,
Yeah,
and that was a sold out show. Did not know it was a sold out show. The band Rival Schools was the co-headliner, who's kind of more people that are closer to maybe 40 years old, because the
Mhm.
singer's in a band called Quicksand, and he was in a lot of other bands as well. But that was a sold out show, and it's we're willing to pay, and that we like. I mean, there were some younger cats there, which was really cool to see. That was one that was awesome to see because those bands paved the way for these younger cats who are in their young 20s, which is awesome to see. But what was great to be in a sold out room full of 37-year-olds like me singing along to a band like Thursday, where
that's awesome.
I was, singing along in my car by myself or asking friends if they like who Thursday or know who Thursday is. And not many people did. So seeing, feeling that connection was actually really cool to see. So, I like that Gatsby's American
Right.
Dreams doing something like that because
Yeah.
obviously people are willing to pay. Will they come back to Odessa, Texas to Earls too? No, not at that game room or anything like that. But it shows that they're going to be willing to play for bigger cities.
Right. So sorry to go off on that tangent.
No, the Paulson rant. No
You were
problem.
talking about Folly,
Yeah,
and so
I emailed them. Yeah, I emailed them. So that's how I started booking shows.
Okay.
All you got to do is just email them, and they'll come. So that's kind of what I started doing. MySpacing, I was at the time, and then some of the bigger bands started popping in to where you had to email them, the booking agent. So that's what I started doing, and it was almost an addiction at that point where it's like all I got to do is email, and they'll respond, or tell them what I can do, and they'll do it. It's not that easy anymore, unfortunately. Or I don't know if Midland Odessa is red flagged or anything like
Right.
that, but that's kind of how it started, and it really, unfortunately, stopped
Right.
after such a good while of booking some of these big bands.
You know what I always thought was an interesting story about your booking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to tell this story because I believe it was for a couple $100 at Midland College that you booked a Day to Remember.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And then like 6 months later on Punk Goes Pop, they dropped that Kelly Clarkson cover and blew up.
Absolutely.
And then their guarantee went from a couple $100 to tens of thousands of dollars almost overnight.
I honestly don't know the logistics, but
Right.
essentially, yeah. I mean, I had a Day to Remember and 4 Year Strong, who was a newer band at the time, who's headlines a lot of tours now and makes lots of money. I would assume at this point too.
I think Memphis Mayfire was on that.
They may
show
have
too.
that, or they may
That
have
was sick
came
show.
another show. There was
Maybe.
a couple of shows at the college that's unfortunately kind of a blur at this point. But having those two bands, probably about under $500 now. Yeah, of course, couple $10,000 probably for the two, 10, 13, maybe 14 for the two.
Right.
It exploded, and that's what happened with all these bands I was able to book. Is they move on to these bigger shows that we just can't have them at Little Earls 2 or Little Roadrunner Room at Midland College anymore. We can, but are we going to charge $50 a ticket because the capacity is so small? Still got to pay for the PA, the advertising for it, which I wasn't doing back then. A lot of there's a lot of logistics to it that people just sometimes I just feel like don't really realize that goes into these shows.
I think there's going to be a trend that kind of goes along with that, though, because I know for a few years it's been the goal is to sell out stadiums, right? Like Kiss is a stadium.
Yeah.
And I think Day to Remember at their biggest was playing festivals, and I don't know about stadiums, but they were playing really big venues. Miley Cyrus has made it a point too. She's no longer going to do stadium shows. She's going to start trying to bring things back to smaller venues.
Yeah,
and
not
more
like
intimate thing, which I think is awesome. That also means your bigger artists are probably going to play 3 or 4 nights in one town as
They could
opposed
pull that.
and they could pull it.
Almost like a comedy show where they're doing multi-nights and stuff, which I really enjoy that. And now all these bands, that have been around for a while, it's like, oh, one night's this album and the next night's this album, and I really enjoy shows like that. So that's really cool that they're bringing it down. But
yeah, and I mean, she's starting to do that, so I'm hoping that everyone else gets into it. So maybe we would be able to book a Day to Remember back here or something like that.
If they want to do a small tour, it'd be awesome. Love to bring I mean, we had great bands. Portugal the Band. I mean, I mean, Circus Survive. I mean, a lot of these bands are still killing it out there. That man, we would love to bring them back. Come back.
Absolutely.
So normally we weasel.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering.
Before we let you go, we have to try to weasel you somehow.
Yeah.
You had mentioned that you've been wanting to start your own podcast.
Okay.
We've already thrown out the aspect of potentially hosting somebody else's podcast.
We have.
We can put your first 2 or 3 together.
Ooh. Okay.
Get you a little bit of a ball rolling.
Yeah.
And if it becomes maybe more than that later, then we talk about that later. But
yeah,
why don't you come on in, get yourself some time? We'll schedule out.
You can come right here in the studio and.
Okay, try a podcast out. Okay, I'd love to try that.
We're just your producers at that point.
Okay,
your thing, your guest, whatever.
I would have to kind of get, of course,
and get your
pen and paper and get a game plan together. Of course, yeah.
I think that's suiting, right?
I think that sounds good to me.
Okay, so sometimes, of course, we need to get boss approval, but sometimes we do need voice help with commercials and stuff, just so we can have more than just the few DJs that we have.
He's weaseling back.
Yes, I am.
Reverse weasel.
Yes, a reverse weasel. We do have our sister stations in Bryan College Station that we can hit up too, but I mean, how about y'all come in and record a couple commercials sometime?
We'd love to.
Just do some voicing so we can have extra voice. And if it's not a commercial, but maybe some promos or even just something so we have some extra voice.
Absolutely. Let us know.
Cool. There we go. Cool. Awesome. A double weasel.
Double weasel.
I do like the double weasel. I need to make some graphics, or like
That is
running across the bottom of the
I like that.
That's great. So that's our time for today. Remember, if you like our guest series on our podcast, please let us know by liking and commenting and always subscribing. Dom, do you have anywhere you would like them to follow you? Your socials?
Sure.
Radio stations?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at BamBamORama, but honestly, I ask to please follow 95X. You can go to our website, 95xlive.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, 95X Live. Please listen to us. We do have an app, so if you're not in the Midland, Odessa area, we do have an app, or you can listen to us on the radio station. I am kind of a hybrid. I do bartending stuff, so I did want to shout out a local company, Hops and Bubbles. They're really great people, and I'm thankful for some of the profit they've helped me out with. I'm not rich. I'm in debt, so don't think that I own 95X or anything like that. There was a rumor about that, by the way, and no, I don't own them. I have a crappy car. I'm trying to climb out of debt. But anyway, speaking of that, also I do bartending. Come see me. Last Saturday of every month is comedy night at Eccentric Brewing Company. I bartend there as well on that Saturday mainly. So it's one night a month. I'm out there. Come have a beer with me.
Saturday of every month.
Last Saturday of every month.
And it's local comics, right?
Local comics. And we also bring in regional if we can. We have had comics that have been on Kill Tony that are from Austin. Right. So that's a lot of fun. But I wanted to give a shout out to Eccentric Brewing because those guys have been kind of behind my back on some of the things and let me do my bartending thing too.
Hey, and as I said in a podcast a while back, we're going to put you on a comedy stage in December. So
there you go, and you could even you can even come get your practice at that night.
I'm just gonna go.
So you just want to go straight in. Oh yeah, do that.
I'm gonna take probably like a vial of Valium or something like liquid
to
chug that. I'm gonna go in and try to.
I will make sure that you're like for sure in on if it's
like a couple of drops of something.
That makes me think of Patton Oswalt's bit about Dr. Pepper. If you haven't watched that, go watch Dr. Pepper from Patton Oswalt. It's hilarious. So make sure you check out 95x.com, 95x the radio station,
95xlive.com,
95xlive.com, Eccentric Brewing, and
don't forget to check out our Facebook, Instagram for our regular updates, our YouTube for our every video, including this one. If you're seeing it on Spotify, make sure you come over to YouTube. Twitch on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we do our gaming. And then, of course, we've got a Twitter or X, whatever you want to call that thing.
I still call it Twitter.
Everyone does, I think. So
And then, of course, just like Dom's going to appear, check out the artist page on BamBamORama.com. That's where you can recap on any of the other podcasts from the artists that we're, bringing in here, and of course, able to check out their art.
yes, thank you for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Love y'all.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank y'all.
Love you.
Bye.